How do high-earning doctors and Wall Street executives end up totally bankrupt, while ordinary, everyday janitors retire as multimillionaires? Honestly, it sounds like a glitch in the matrix. But here's the thing. Financial success isn't a math equation. It's not about spreadsheets, complex algorithms, or even your IQ. It is a deeply, deeply emotional game. In this explainer, we're going to unpack the hidden psychological forces that are secretly dictating your financial life right now. And to kick things off, let's look at a true story that will absolutely shatter how you view money.
Okay, meet Ronald Reed. Ronald was a rural gas station attendant and a janitor who literally swept floors at JCPenney for 17 years. His main hobby? Chopping firewood. The guy actually hitchhiked to his high school. Now I want you to contrast him with Richard Fuscone. Richard was a Harvard-educated Merrill Lynch executive with an MBA. He was a literal titan of high finance who retired in his 40s. He owned an 18,000-square-foot mansion with 2 elevators, 2 pools, and 7 garages.
But here is where this whole thing takes a massive, almost unbelievable twist. When Ronald Reed, the humble JCPenney janitor, died in 2014 at age 92, he made international headlines. Why? Because he left behind an $8 million fortune. And no, he didn't win the lottery, he didn't inherit it, he just quietly saved and invested in blue-chip stocks for decades. Meanwhile, Richard Fuscone, the absolute financial genius, was destroyed by the 2008 crash. He ended up standing before a bankruptcy judge declaring he had zero income, and that mega mansion of his was sold off in a foreclosure auction.
So, you really have to wonder, how? How does a guy with no college degree and exactly zero Wall Street connections massively outperform one of the highest educated financial executives in the entire world? You would never see a janitor outperform a Harvard-trained heart surgeon in an operating room, but money is different. It's a game of behavior, and to win it, you have to avoid a few devastating psychological traps.
The first, and honestly probably the most dangerous trap, is the illusion of the moving goalpost. One of the absolute hardest financial skills to master is simply getting your expectations to stop rising. If your desires increase equally with your income, there's zero logic in striving for more, right? You'll always feel exactly the same. The real danger hits when the taste of money increases your ambition faster than your satisfaction. You start feeling like you're falling behind, and suddenly, the only way you think you can catch up is to take massive, reckless risks.
Consider the sheer destruction caused by a lack of knowing what enough means. Look at guys like Rajat Gupta or Bernie Madoff. These were men with unimaginable wealth, enormous prestige, total freedom. They already had everything, yet they threw it all away and went straight to federal prison. Why? Because they had absolutely no sense of enough. They risked something vital, their freedom and their reputation, for extra money they genuinely, literally did not need.
A massive driver of this greed is the social comparison trap. Think about it like an endless ladder. A rookie baseball player making $500 grand a year is incredibly rich. But next to Mike Trout, who's making $36 million, he feels kind of broke. But then Mike Trout looks at a hedge fund manager pulling in $340 million and suddenly feels lacking. And that manager compares himself to Warren Buffett, who then looks at Jeff Bezos. You see where this is going? Social comparison is a ceiling so high that nobody will ever hit it. It's a battle that can never be won. The only way to win is to just refuse to fight.
This brings us to a massive paradigm shift. If an elite Wall Street executive can go bankrupt and earning $36 million a year can still leave you feeling inadequate, we have to ask a fundamental question. What actually is true wealth? Because, as it turns out, society has completely trained us to look for the exact wrong visual cues.
We really need to separate two concepts here. Rich and wealthy are not the same thing. Blurring that line is the source of countless terrible financial decisions. Rich is just current income. Someone driving a $100,000 Porsche is rich for sure, because they need a high current income just to afford that lease. They're going out of their way to make themselves known. But wealth? Wealth is income not spent. It is an option that hasn't been taken yet.
Here is a perfect example of this. A few years ago, Rihanna nearly went bankrupt after overspending, and she actually sued her financial advisor over it. His response in court was brutal but perfectly accurate. He basically said, was it really necessary to tell her that if you spend money on things, you will end up with the things and not the money? It's kind of funny, but it's a trap almost all of us fall into. When most people say they want to be a millionaire, what they actually mean is they want to spend $1 million. And spending $1 million is literally the exact opposite of being a millionaire.
Modern capitalism is basically a masterclass in helping people fake it until they make it. We judge success by what we can physically see. Luxury cars, huge diamonds, Rolexes. Because we can't just peep into people's bank accounts, we rely on outward appearances to gauge how successful they are. But true wealth is what you don't see. Wealth is the sports car you didn't buy. It's the first-class upgrade you declined. It's all those invisible financial assets that haven't been converted into physical stuff.
And this leads to perhaps the most profound realization you can have about money. Saving money is simply the gap between your ego and your income. Past a certain basic level of comfort, spending is mostly just a reflection of your ego approaching your income. It's a daily, exhausting psychological struggle against the primal instinct to extend your peacock feathers to impress complete strangers. To build true wealth, you have to raise your humility and simply stop caring what other people think of you.
Okay, so if the secret is really just managing your ego, living below your means, and investing the difference, why is it so hard? Why do so many incredibly smart people completely panic and lose their life savings during a market crash? Well, because holding on to an investment isn't just about the math. There's a very real emotional toll.
Which brings us to a pretty harsh reality. Absolutely nothing is free. Everything has a price, but not all prices appear on neat little labels. When you want a new car, you see the $30,000 price tag and you decide right then and there if it's worth it. But the price of investing success? That is completely hidden until you are experiencing it firsthand.
The currency of investing isn't paid in dollars and cents. It's paid in volatility, fear, doubt, uncertainty, and regret. You always hear people say, oh, just hold stocks for the long run. Sounds super easy on paper. But you know how hard it is to maintain that mindset when the market totally collapses? The news is screaming about a global depression, and you're looking at your family wondering if you just ruined their entire future. The inability to recognize this emotional price tag tempts people to try and get something for nothing by timing the market, which almost never ends well.
If you look closely at historical market data, a very clear pattern emerges. Think about severe market drops and all the volatility we see. Severe drops and upheaval are the historical norm. They are the constant, completely unavoidable companion of compounding your money. This chaos is literally the price of market returns. It's not a bug in the system, it is a feature.
So how do you actually survive this chaos without totally panicking? You have to fundamentally rewire how you view the drop. When your portfolio drops 20%, it feels like a fine. A fine means you did something wrong, like getting a speeding ticket, and you should try to avoid it. But you must train your mind to view market volatility as a fee, not a fine. Think of it like a ticket to Disneyland. You pay $100 for the admission fee, but you get a great experience in return. Market volatility is simply the admission fee you pay to enter the greatest wealth-building theme park in history.
So, let's say you do it. You manage your ego, you save your money, you enjoy the terrifying volatility fee, and you build up this massive pile of invisible assets. What is the actual point? What is the ultimate end goal of accumulating all this invisible wealth?
The absolute highest dividend money pays is controlling your own time. Money's greatest intrinsic value is its ability to give you absolute autonomy. It means waking up every single morning and saying, I can do whatever I want today. 6 months of emergency savings means you don't have to be terrified of a toxic boss. True wealth allows you to wait for a good job offer, to take a role with a shorter commute, or to retire when you want, not when you have to. Autonomy is the ultimate prize here.
The mechanics of staying wealthy really just boil down to a simple 3-step formula. First, frugality, living below your means and actively keeping your ego in check. Second, paranoia, having that humbling fear that what you've made can be taken away, which keeps your risks conservative. And third, time, letting compounding do the heavy lifting over decades, exactly like Ronald Reid chopping his firewood while his money quietly multiplied in the background.
Ultimately, financial success is overwhelmingly about behavior, not intelligence. You do not need a fancy formal education or an incredibly high IQ to master this stuff. You just need to master yourself. A certified genius who loses control of their emotions is going to invite financial disaster, but an ordinary, everyday person with good behavioral skills can achieve absolute financial freedom.
The author, Morgan Housel, sums it up so perfectly. Doing well with money has a little to do with how smart you are and a lot to do with how you behave. It's all about accepting that your personal experiences shape your worldview, staying humble, and knowing exactly when you have enough.
Remember, true wealth is what you don't see. It's quiet, it's hidden, and it gives you the ultimate freedom to control your own life. So, here's my challenge to you today. Drop the ego, ignore the flashy cars, and focus on the quiet magic of compounding. What hidden wealth are you going to start building today? If you found this explainer eye-opening, do me a favor.
Make sure to hit subscribe and drop a comment below on what your personal version of enough looks like. See you in the next one.